And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, the Washington Commanders defeat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23-20, and the Washington Commanders are now going to advance to the divisional round. This came down to a field goal kick, which you will see right now to the right of the screen. This is Zane Gonzalez who bangs this in to send the Commanders into the divisional round. This was quite a back and forth game. And this is exactly what you expect from the Washington Commanders, as now we've had 7 football games come down to the final snap, and the Washington Commanders pull it out. So let's start with the key takeaways from this game. And I wanted to start with really the X factors. And so I talked about this earlier in the week, and I thought that Austin Ekeler was going to be a huge X factor in this game, and he was. Today, you see that he was second as far as running the football behind Jayden Daniels. And yes, he only had 27 yards on 8 carries, but you see that he had 3.4 as the average. And so he was the most successful runner for the Washington Commanders today, really helped the offense stay on schedule. He had a 12-yard game, which was the longest, and that was the longest out of all the runners that we had. And also, too, Austin Ekeler was huge in the passing game. He had 3 receptions for 26 yards, and he had an 18 was his longest. And I think that you can say that Austin Ekeler's catch in the final drive really helped kind of seal the deal, as that pushed us into field goal range. And so Austin Ekeler came up super big for us today, really gave us a veteran presence out there when we needed it. And I think Jayden Daniels was able to lean on him. So Austin Ekeler, definitely an X factor today. Next up, looking at some of the other X factors out there, because we knew that there were going to have to be other players that needed to step up. Zach Ertz was a player that I thought he was going to do something like that today, and he did. He had 2 receptions for 23 yards, and so I think that he did a great job as far as working the middle of the field. A lot of the catches that he had were chunk plays, so that was good to see. But I think that somebody we probably didn't anticipate stepping up in this game, and we knew it was somebody that was going to have to step up. We just didn't know who it was going to be. But Dyami Brown, 5 receptions, 89 yards. He had a touchdown in this one. And I think that he did a terrific job in really attacking the middle of this defense of the Buccaneers. We knew coming into this that the Buccaneers had a shaky defense. They had the injuries, and they had really been shaky all year. And it was just a matter of, could Jayden Daniels just hang in there against the blitz? And the stats really showed that he was a very good quarterback against the blitz. In fact, coming in, he is the 6th best quarterback against the blitz. And you saw that he was able to just hang in there and just really pick the Buccaneers apart. And that really kept the Washington Commanders on the field. And we're going to talk about the time of possession, but it really wore down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I think that Dyami Brown did a terrific job as far as getting into those pockets and really, eating up the Buccaneers secondary. And then Terry McLaurin, look, I know he's not necessarily the X factor. We know what Terry McLaurin can do, but Scary Terry, again, man, you know he's coming, but you still can't stop him. And he gets a clutch touchdown in the second half. Look, 7 receptions, 89 yards, and a touchdown. And I think what is huge about his score in the fourth quarter is that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had only given up 9 points. And, just when you saw that touchdown from the Commanders, it just almost felt like the momentum certainly shifted for the Commanders. And it had to end in a way where they scored 10 points. And you knew that that definitely hurt, because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had only given up 9 points in, I think, 6 or 7 consecutive games. And so for the Commanders to break that was huge. And it started with that Terry McLaurin touchdown. So that was big. And so next up, now that we've talked about the X factor and the receiving game, I want to talk about Jayden Daniels. I think that Jayden Daniels was special for the Washington Commanders again. And look, 24 of 35, 268 yards. He had a 7.7 average, 2 touchdowns, and only 1 sack on the day. And I think that that's critical because, we knew that we were going to have a healthy offensive line to really go against the blitz that was coming with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Talked about how they run a lot of exotic blitzes and things like that. And I think that the offensive line just did a terrific job just hanging in there and giving Jayden Daniels the time that he needed to pick apart this defense. And I love the fact that Jaden Daniels was able to only get sacked one time. I think that there were times where he did a great job as far as getting rid of the football. And he did a great job too, as far as not taking too many negative plays, which really set us back behind the sticks. So that was terrific to see that type of composure and poise. He's the fourth rookie starting quarterback to win a playoff game on the road. So he's making some more history. And, just as a whole with the team, I mean, offensively, just looking at this performance, I mean, they're the third team without a punt or a turnover in a postseason game. Only the 2003 Colts and the 2021 Bills have done that. So that just tells you how locked in this offense was. And I love that Dan Quinn's mindset was to continue to really go after the Buccaneers, because he went after them and he kept going forward on fourth downs, even though you would think maybe the Commanders were going to really take the points. And I just love that from Dan Quinn. And I felt that kind of confidence really exuberated through the entire football team. And look, as far as the fourth downs are concerned, look, 3 fourth down conversions, most in a playoff game, Super Bowl era. So again, some more history for the Washington Commanders. And so kudos for them. And now that we've talked about the offense and we talked about Jaden Daniels and just how special he was, really hanging in there in the pocket and making some plays when we needed it with his legs, the defense. And so the defense stepped up huge. I talked about Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, about how they had been selected to now the All-Pro selection, the second team All-Pro selection. And I thought that they were going to play a big factor in this game, and they did. Bobby Wagner got the only turnover in the game. It was an errant kind of snap handoff from Baker Mayfield, and he fumbled the football. Bobby Wagner got it back, and that was huge because we had just turned the football over on downs. That led to Terry McLaurin getting that touchdown. And so Bobby Wagner, huge force. He's the quarterback on defense. He had 5 solo tackles today. And like I said, he was all over the place, and he is the quarterback on the field. And then Marshawn Lattimore. I think that even though Marshawn Lattimore gave up some plays to Mike Evans and everything, and he had 7 receptions for 92 yards and a touchdown, I think it was a tough 92 yards out there. I think that it was a very physical game between those two. And it was it was like a cat and mouse type of game. And I love the defensive adjustments that we made in this game. We didn't get rattled when Mike Evans and their passing offense really started to click, because Mike Evans was hitting us for some things. And then Jalen McMillan, he was getting some things done, 2 receptions for 41 yards. Cade Otton had a big catch. But aside from that, I mean, I think that the Washington Commanders secondary held up for the most part. And I think what really helped out the defense is just the offense's ability to stay on the field. In fact, when we look at the time of possession in this game, that was the difference. The Commanders 35-26 compared to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 24-34. And look, sometimes your best defense is your offense, and that's keeping the other opposing quarterback on the bench. And that's exactly what we saw today. And I've been talking about this leading into the playoffs, that when you take the air out of the football, you have got to be able to, take these drives, and you got to get some scoring plays. And that's what we were able to do. We were able to score on those plays. And so, look, I loved everything about this. This was a huge team win for the Commanders. When you look at what they did as far as defensively in the running game, look, Bucky Irvin, I know he had a pretty solid day with 17 carries, 77 yards, 4.5 in average, but he didn't go over 100. I think for the most part, they kept him contained. And there were some wins that the Commanders had up front. And I think that it maybe discouraged, I think, the Buccaneers from kind of going to that, even though they did get Bucky Irvin 17 carries. But I think that they didn't necessarily go to him as much in the first half as I anticipated. So I thought that was interesting. Baker Mayfield, I think that he had a pretty good day running the football. I know that there were a couple highlight reels where he's throwing people off of him. But more importantly, when you look at Baker Mayfield, you look at the statistics, look at this, 15 of 18, 185 yards. He did have the 2 touchdowns. He had the 1 sack, but you see only 18 passes, right? And you see that just the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just didn't have a lot of offensive plays out there, because the Commanders really took away just the ability for them to be on the field. In fact, the total plays breakdown, 69 for the Commanders to the 44 of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, that's terrific ball control offense. When you look at the penalties, I think that we did a terrific job there. We only had 5 penalties for 39 yards. The Buccaneers had some costly penalties. A lot of this stuff was in the secondary, 7 penalties for 65 yards. And the irony of it is, I talked about the Commanders needing to get a turnover, and I thought it was going to come from Baker Mayfield throwing an interception, and he's second in the league behind Kirk Cousins with 16, but it came on a fumble, and he's actually behind Kirk Cousins there as second as for the most lost fumbles. And so ironic it came down to that, but the Washington Commanders, they're now advancing to the divisional round of the playoffs. Super excited as they get ready to take on the Detroit Lions. We'll be talking a little bit more about this game. We'll also be doing, more of an injury update there for the Washington Commanders and just some of the keys to going into this week against the Detroit Lions. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about this huge win for the Washington Commanders. Super excited. Like I said before, in the pregame video, I have watched them beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in the day in the playoffs. And so now to see this again full circle was awesome. And so let me know what your key takeaways were from this game. Anyway, as we usually say all the time, go Commanders, and I will see you on the next one. Peace, peace, peace.